there was a brother that came into my life. Let me just say this. On paper, this man sounds amazing. Now that I'm doing this with God, I'm waiting on God, hearing church folks constantly talk about marriage to me, it's like, leave me alone. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Deborah. I send you virtual hugs wherever you are because you are loved over here on this channel. We're gonna jump right into this video because we gotta talk. We need to talk about this. So by the title, you guys already see what we're going to be speaking about, which is the waiting season. Dun dun dun. So as always, I felt led to kind of shine light on this waiting season of mine because one, I've never been here before, so I believe that it can help somebody else. But also two, I don't want to be that person that once I get married, that's when I start talking about like my single season and speaking to single women on how to embrace their single season. I feel like it's harder to listen to a married woman talk about her single season when she's where you want to be. I think it'll be more receptive to hearing about waiting in your single season from someone who is actually in that season. So here we are. I'm about to put my business out here, but what's new? Because at the end of the day, I've been doing this since 2017. So like, girl, at this point, there's nothing new. For those who do not know and those who haven't been following along with my healing journey, and if you haven't, the playlist will be linked down below or it will be in the cards above. So definitely check that out, okay? My last relationship was in 2021. And to be quite honest with y'all, I have never been single. Well, actually, let me not say that. I've been single where we were in like a relationship in terms of boyfriend and girlfriend, but I've always had a male companion in my life. I never really knew how to be alone because I've always had someone in my life. Either he was interested in me or I was interested in him or we were both interested in each other. Point blank period, I've always had a male companion in my life. And so after my last relationship that ended in 2021, there was a brother that came into my life. Let me just say this. On paper, this man sounds amazing. So first and foremost, this man was like 6'5". Okay, this man was a giant. He was real tall. I'm 5'3". 6'5", that's real tall. Okay, that's pretty tall for me. Haitian, of course. He was in a high-paying tech job. He lived on his own. He purchased his own house. He had his own car. Like, he had his own everything. Very responsible. He was a worship leader. Very nice man. Very nice man. But prior to me meeting this guy, I did not know this man existed. We were actually closer than I thought. So his father's cousin married my mother's cousin. His father actually used to try to get with my mother when they were younger. And my father used to try to get with his father's sister when they were younger. So like the family was very much intertwined. Like my family knows him very well and vice versa. Like his family knows my family very well. So, but how did me and this man come in contact? Because I kid you not, I never knew who this man was. A while back ago, a couple years ago, I had posted a picture of me and my uncle and I had tagged my cousin. So then that's when he saw my picture. So he saw my picture and I guess he'd been asking around about me, asking who I am, so on and so forth. Before I continue, let's give this man a name. Let's call him Mr. Tech. Okay, since he's in tech, we're gonna call him Mr. Tech. So Mr. Tech sees my picture. He contacts my cousin asking, who is she? Oh my goodness, she's beautiful. Long story short, one random day, I see a tall man in my living room and I'm like, who is this guy? Like basically he came to visit my parents because like I said, our families are close. So I guess he was in town or whatever and he came by to see my parents, but it was really him trying to check me out in person. Mr. Tech sees me and, you know, he falls in love or whatever. I'm playing. He tells my cousin, he's like, hey, you know, I would love to get in contact with her. Like, can you ask her if she's okay with giving me her number so I can get in contact with her and talk to her or whatever. My cousin comes back and she tells me, hey, Mr. Tech would like to, you know, talk to you and he wants to know if it's okay for me to give him your number. So I'm not really thinking much of it because, you know, I just got out of a relationship. So I was just not really thinking too much of it, but I was like, whatever, like, okay, cool, you give him my number. And so now that he has my number, me and this man was in communication almost every single day. Like we were constantly talking, we were constantly just getting to know each other, and it was cool vibes. So eventually Mr. Tech decides to ask me out on a date. Now, mind you, Mr. Tech does not live in New York. He lives in Florida. I go and run to my girls and I'm just like, girl, he asked me out on a date. Like, this is so different because I've never been on a date with a guy before that I wasn't in a relationship with. So my girls call me down and they're like, listen, Deborah, like, just go on a date with the guy. It's not like he's a complete stranger. Like, your families know each other. So it's like, it's perfectly fine. And also too, like, you enjoy talking to this man. So just go on a date with him and see what happens. So I tell Mr. Tech, I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I'll go on a date with you. He purchased a ticket for that weekend and he comes out. So he comes, he lands, he settles in, and then I end up getting cold feet. I end up getting cold feet and I end up canceling the date with Mr. Tech. And I just told him, you know, hey, I'm sorry. I won't be able to go on a date anymore, so on and so forth, whatever. And so in my head, I'm kind of freaking out because I already know some guys, they ready to rip your head off. Like, are you serious? I done purchased a plane ticket. I done booked a hotel for me to stay at. So I was just like overthinking it. But he was just really calm. And when he said what he said, this right here, I was just like, you might be a keeper. So when I had canceled on him, he was just like, listen, it's completely okay. If you change your mind in the next few days, I will purchase another ticket to come down that weekend. It's not a problem because you are worth it. And I was just like, wow, you a good one. You a good one. So we continue talking. At this point, we're talking to each other every single day. And eventually Mr. Tech asks me out on another date, and he's just like, listen, like, I enjoy talking to you, like, I want to see you face to face and experience your presence. I was like, sure, fine, you know, I'll go on a date with you. So once again, he purchased a ticket to come and see me, but then I get cold feet again and I end up canceling on this man. Now at this point, I'm like, yeah, this man is not gonna talk to me no more. This man is about to like block my number. Like, what am I doing? I'm just like, this is so new to me. You know, I just got out of a relationship a couple months back, and this is just like, it's scary for me to kind of like put myself out there again. Like, I'm scared. And then he says, listen, it's completely fine. Once again, if you change your mind in the next few days, I will purchase another ticket to come and see you because you are worth it. It's completely okay. I understand. I thought like he would like start to text me less and start to call me less often. But honestly, like, one of the things that I realized about him, though I canceled on him twice, he was still consistent. Like, he was still consistent in checking up on me every single day, you know, just being present. Like, he was consistent, and that was just like, wow, like, you really dope, you a good one. So then once again, we're talking, but at this point we're kind of getting a little bit closer because we're talking to each other consistently. He tells me, he's like, hey, you know, I'm gonna be on a business trip in New York, I would love to come and see you. And he's like, listen, you know, don't even look at it as a date. Just look at it as two people, two friends meeting up to hang out with each other. We don't even have to sit down to eat or anything. We could just go out for some coffee or go out for a walk or something. Like, it doesn't have to be nothing crazy. I just want to see you. And I was just like, when he puts it like that, it kind of made me feel a little bit more comfortable and more like relaxed. I'm cool with that. So I say yes. And as you guessed it, I ended up canceling. And at this point, I really had to like sit myself down, because I knew like if I kept the conversation going between me and this man, eventually this man was going to end up falling in love. I was not going to be able to reciprocate that because my heart was still connected to my last relationship. So I ended up telling him the truth, and I was just like, listen, I just can't do it, and I enjoy talking to you, but it's not fair to you because you clearly want to move forward. You clearly are intentional about what you want, but I'm not there yet. And he was just so respectful. Like, he was such a nice guy. And he was just like, listen, you know, I understand and thank you for, you know, telling me this. But even if we do not communicate with each other every single day, am I able to at least just check up on you just to see how you're doing? I told the brother, I was like, yeah, no. I was just like, we just gotta distance ourselves, because I knew that he was very much invested in us. and I just wasn't there. And I knew that I had to really just take the time to heal, because if I didn't, I knew that I was going to end up hurting him or any other guy that came to my path during that time, because I was broken and I didn't even notice it. So I ended up cutting off all communication with Mr. Tech. That's really when I entered my healing journey, where I just felt led to just focus on God, focus on healing. I was really in my single season. I wasn't looking at no dudes. I don't care who was in my inbox. I don't care who was interested in me. I was focused on my relationship with God and just healing, letting go of the memories of my last relationship. That lasted for 2 years. Because I was just talking about that with my best friend. And I was just like, girl, do you know that I've been single for 2 years? And she's like, girl, that's not that long. But for me, for somebody like me who has always had a male companion in my life, that is long. I was intentionally in my single season for 2 years. Now, recently, something interesting happened. I was just like, hold on. What's this? What's going on? There's this guy that I know. I've known him for quite some time, and I've never looked at him in any type of way. But recently, me and this man, we started talking, and I started to feel a little something. And I'm like, hold on. What is all of this? Like, what am I feeling right now? Like, what is going on? And I realized that I started to view this man in a certain way. And I'm like, hold on. Has the desire for me to be in a relationship come up again? Like, what is this? And it was so weird because I felt like my eyes were covered. I felt like I was not looking at any guy in any kind of way. Felt like the veil was just lifted up off my eyes, and I just started to see every guy, and I'm just like, oh snap, oh he look good, oh this, it is, and that. And I'm like, hold on, what's going on? And the difference between now compared to before is that now I know better. Now that I've dealt with like the hurt and the pain of all that I've experienced when it came to relationship, now I'm just like, I know better. I know how getting into certain situations, what it led to. All it led to was me being left broken because I did it without God. So part of me was like, I'm running to God. Lord, if it ain't you, cut it off. But part of me though, I was just like, I'm enjoying the attention. Like, I'm enjoying him checking up on me. Like, this feels good. But I'm like, Deborah, if you keep this going and this ain't of God, you gonna be left broken again. And I was just like, listen, I don't want to be like the Israelites where them getting to the promised land, I believe it was supposed to take them 11 days and it ended up taking them 40 years because of their disobedience. So I was like, God, I don't want to go back to my old ways. I don't want to go through that again. And so I was just praying hard. Like, when I tell you hard, I'm like, Lord, I really like this dude. I'm really like enjoying talking to this man. He's a really cool guy. He's a man of God. He seems dope. Like, Lord, if this not you, Lord, if this not you, Lord. And eventually God ended up showing me that he wasn't for me. Things ended up like cutting off or whatever. But that's when I realized, like, man, this waiting season is actually hard. It's so different for me because it's like, before, I see it, I want it, I get it. That's it. Now it's like, I see it, I want it, but I can't just go and get it because I need to know if this is of God. Now it's just like, dang, like I got the desire again. Like, I got the desire to be in a relationship, but it's just like, I gotta wait on God. And I think the thing for me that makes it a little bit difficult in this waiting season of mine is not trusting God, is not having faith in him. What makes it really hard in this waiting season is not knowing how long you have to wait. It's like, Lord, when is this gonna happen? But another thing as well that I realized that started to kind of affect me a little bit is the church folks. Now, I'm gonna be real. I feel like as soon as I entered adulthood, as soon as like my church folks started to see like my maturity, especially like me mature spiritually, all I've been hearing is, when is the wedding? When are you getting married? Where's the guy? Praying for you to get married. Like, just so much talk about marriage. Now, before, it didn't really affect me in any kind of way because I always had someone in my life around that time. But now that I'm like, I'm doing this with God, I'm waiting on God, hearing church folks constantly talk about marriage to me, it's like, leave me alone. I know my church folks and those who come to me about marriage, I know it's never from a place of like, oh, like you still single, you not married yet. Like, I know it's not from that kind of place. I know it's more so like excitement to see me, settle down. But I just be like, man, like, I just need my church folks to like pull it back a little bit. Like, just pull it back. Like, church folks really need to be careful with that, because when you push marriage to single people so much, what ends up happening is you cause marriage to be an idol for them. I feel like like a lot of single people, once they get married, they feel like they've reached the end. Like, okay, I'm married now, that's it. Something that always confuses me is when I hear married folks say things like, oh yeah, I don't have time anymore because I'm married, so I don't really have time to go to church, or I don't have time to be in ministry anymore because I'm married now. And I just be like, I'd be confused. You just got married and you had a kid. I'm more willing to extend grace. I could understand, because it's just like that right there, that's a lot. And not saying that marriage isn't an adjustment, but for me, when people say things like they can't come to church or they can't serve in ministry because they got married, for me, I just be like, no, you got what you wanted, so now you feel like you don't have to go harder like you was before. Some people were very faithful to God. They were faithful in those prayers, praying about that husband, praying about that wife, and as soon as that person comes, it's like, oh, okay, I don't really got to be in fasting services no more. I don't really have to go to those prayer services. I don't really have to go to Bible study. I don't really have to put all this energy anymore because I got my person. And though they might not say it, that's what your actions are showing. And part of that, I really do blame the church folks, because once again, a lot of times we push marriage so much on single people that we really make it seem as if marriage is the end goal, which if anything, it's the beginning. It's when you should go even harder. And that's why even in this waiting season where my prayers have changed a little bit, okay? But something that I have been praying about is that God, that help me to continue to be thirsty for you even when you answer my prayers. Because I feel like we forget the same God that gives is the same God that can take away. But I also feel like the mistake that church folks also do when they push marriage on single folks so much, what ends up happening is a lot of people end up settling. A lot of people end up settling with people that were not intended to be their purpose partner. Me and one of my kingdom sisters, we were talking about this, where we were just like, listen, it's not even about that we can't even get a man. I'm gonna say it again, my kingdom sisters, it's not even that you can't get a man, but it's the fact that we have standards, right? I have a standard that I'm looking for. And when I mean standard, I'm not talking about he gotta be 6 foot tall, he gotta make this amount of money, that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the godly standard in terms of like, I am not okay with being with a man that can't even pray for me. I am not okay with being with a man that don't know his word, or that is not thirsty and that is not seeking after God. I'm not okay with being with a man like that. They call themselves Christians, but it's just a title. It's not a lifestyle for them. And one of my favorite people, Jackie Hill Perry, she said this thing, and I was just like, exactly. She was just like, okay, you want to be with someone that tells you how beautiful you look every single day, and you want to lay up next to someone every single night. I understand that, but you don't want somebody that's gonna fight demons for you. You don't want somebody that's gonna pray over you. And to my brothers and my sisters who are in this waiting season, you need to raise up your standard. I am not okay with the whole, women are more hungry for God than men, or you always see women in the prayer services, you always see women in the fasting services. You don't really see the guys like that. I'm not okay with that. Like, I'm not okay with that statement. I'm not saying that, he has to be on the same spiritual level as me. If I could pray for 1 hour and he can only pray for 10 minutes, I ain't gonna be with him. I'm not saying that. I will say, though we may not be on the same level spiritually, I need to know that you are not okay with staying there. I need to know that you desire to grow in your relationship with God. When you settle with being with someone that God did not intend for you to be with, that is not your purpose partner, what ends up happening is they hinder you from actually walking into the calling that God has placed over your life. I've heard so many testimonies of men and women talk about how like their spouse is really a persecution for them to do the work of the kingdom. I truly know that where God wants to take me, I can't be with just any person. And it goes for me too, as I will one day be somebody else's wife. I don't ever want to be the person that hinders the spiritual growth of my partner. I want to be with somebody that's doing ministry with me. Marriage, this union, it's supposed to reflect the relationship between God and the church. If it's not even showing that, if we're not doing the work of the kingdom in our marriage, then what's the point? I really just want my marriage to be what God intended for it to be, which is a reflection of his relationship with the church. And just to wrap this up, like, I know that this waiting season is hard, just waiting on God. I know that God is on time, like his timing is perfect. And I just encourage those who are in their single season that really do have the desire to be in a relationship, but it's like you also don't want to make any moves without God. I completely understand it. And that is the fear of the Lord. That is the fear of the Lord. That is the reverence that you have for God, and God will honor that. It's not in his nature to be anything else but faithful, but just. You are not by yourself. You are not by yourself, okay? It's hard out here, but once again, as long as you are doing it with God and you have community, I do encourage my sisters to really pray that God place other women in your life to be able to help you in this waiting season. Also for my brothers, really ask God to put kingdom men in your life to be able to edify you, to be able to help you during this season in your life. And don't settle, because you don't deserve that. You deserve a king. You deserve a queen. And during this waiting season, ask God to reveal things in you that is keeping this blessing away. And I always say this: God is not going to give you a blessing if he knows it's going to be a curse in your life. He ain't going to give it to you. If he knows that it's going to pull you away from him, he's not going to give it to you. Just because you see some people getting married and whatever, that don't mean God is in it. I rebuke it for myself. I rebuke it for you who is watching, that your marriage will not be part of the percentage of Christian marriages with that divorce. Your marriage and my marriage in Jesus' name will not be part of that percentage. That the person that is watching this, that your marriage will be successful. Your marriage will reflect the love of God. Your marriage will reflect the patience of God. All in all, that it will honor and bring glory to his name. And so embrace this waiting season. Throw yourself in the work of the kingdom, and I promise you, God will honor it, because he is faithful. Honestly, you guys, coming from someone who is single and who is waiting on God, this is probably one of the times that you will have the most time to really throw yourself in the work of the kingdom. Because when you have a family, it's harder. It's not that it's impossible, it's much harder. And I have witnessed that for my mother. I see how like she had to make a lot of sacrifices. And so this is the time where you can kind of be selfish in the sense of throwing yourself in the work of the kingdom. And so listen, focus on the now. Let God worry about the future and what's going to happen tomorrow. Focus on the now and just really take in the work that God is doing within you. So of course, I thank God for allowing you guys to watch this video, because today was not promised, but it was all given by God, and I thank God for that. And I hope you guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whenever you are watching this video, have a blessed day. May God bless you, and until next time, God willing, peace.